All right, so are you ready for a history lesson? That doesn't feel like a history lesson
Yeah.
because trust me, this one's fascinating.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Welcome to the deep dive. I'm Hari,
And I'm Kimi.
and we are so excited to have you here today. As always, we are going to take a deep dive into a fascinating piece of history. But today, we are doing it a little bit differently. We are going to be using a photograph as a jumping off point.
I'm excited for this one. I love a good visual.
Right.
Gives you something to really ground yourself in.
Absolutely. And this one is a powerful image. It is a photograph of Sergeant Samuel Smith. He was an African-American soldier in the Union Army. And the photograph is of him with his wife and two daughters, taken sometime between 1863 and 1865. So right in the middle of the Civil War.
Yeah. Powerful image. And it represents such a specific moment in a much, much larger story.
Right. You know, and it makes you think about, like, who are African Americans? What is their story? What is their history?
Big one.
Yeah, it is.
It is a big one. I mean, African Americans are the third largest racial or ethnic group in the United States.
Yeah. It's such a diverse group, too. I mean, the term African American encompasses people with partial or total ancestry from any of the Black racial groups of Africa. It's not a monolithic identity.
No, absolutely not. And it is really interesting to think about, most African Americans are descendants of enslaved people, primarily with West African and coastal Central African ancestry. But there's also varying amounts of Western European and Native American ancestry, too. It's all mixed in there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You know, I'm thinking about Sergeant Samuel Smith serving in the Civil War. I mean, what was it like to be a Black soldier in the segregated army?
Yeah, I mean, especially serving in these United States colored troops.
Right. The 119th, right?
The 119th.
Yeah.
These units were formed during the Civil War, and they were specifically for African American soldiers. And I think, thinking about that image again, the courage that it took for these men to fight for a nation that didn't fully recognize their equality, to risk their lives for a freedom that they hadn't fully attained.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to forget sometimes that the Civil War wasn't just about, the North versus the South or states' rights. I mean, it was about African Americans fighting for their own liberation, for the right to be seen as equal citizens in the land where they lived.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that's interesting to think about is that they faced so much discrimination and prejudice even within the Army.
Right, even within the army that they were fighting for.
Yeah, yet they still served with incredible distinction. And their bravery and their sacrifices, I mean, they played a pivotal role in the Union victory and the eventual abolition of slavery.
Absolutely. You look at this photo, you see the determined look in Sergeant Smith's eyes and the warmth in his family's embrace. And it makes you think about all of the untold stories, the everyday heroes, the people whose sacrifices shaped history. I mean, what details stand out to you? Like when you look at this image, what do you see?
I think for me, it's a reminder that history isn't just about big events and famous people.
Right.
It's about all the little individual lives and all the personal triumphs and all the tragedies that make up this huge, complex story.
Yeah.
And I think this photograph, it invites us to look beyond the surface and to consider the hopes and the dreams and the struggles of the people who came before us, and just to recognize the lasting impact that they've had on shaping our world today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and as you continue to learn about the history of our nation, think about how understanding the experiences of African Americans deepens our understanding of American history as a whole. Think about that.
See you next time.
Bye.